The people in favor of taking Confederate names off of government buildings are the very people who questioned the validity of the Holocaust. When somebody walks into a building named after Robert E. Lee, they begin to research who Robert E. Lee was. They find out that he was a Confederate general. Then they start to research on what the Confederacy is. Then they start to find out things that happened in the Confederacy. Sooner or later, they're going to end up on slavery.
Hi lovelies, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Belinda Verse or Belly channel. Don't forget to please subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications so that anytime I upload videos, you will be the first person to be notified. To my returning subscribers, to those people that share my videos, leave commentaries, and educate each and every one of us, you guys are the real MVP. So lovelies, I'm gonna be your today's host, and I have so many stitches to put up here, and we're gonna come up to talk about it. Alright lovelies, let's dive into today's video.
And that all started because a building was named after Robert E. Lee. So then they'll question why the building is named after somebody like Robert E. Lee when he was fighting for a side that did heinous things. That's why it's named after Robert E. Lee, because of all the research that you just did after seeing the name. That's why we have to protect those buildings and monuments. It's not because we're in favor of slavery. It's because without those buildings and those monuments, the conversation would never be had. Sooner or later, it'll be forgotten, and then it's doomed to repeat itself.
Okay, I actually fully agree with you. But on top of that, I want to add, change the plaques. Change the message. Make sure that these people are not glorified. Because you fully got to understand, some parents and grandparents and great-grandparents are going to push the glorification of these, the South will rise again, Confederate ideologies. And that's not something we want in this country. At all. Those people that think that this country would be better if the South would have won, I guess they don't know who the fuck Spartacus is. And the fact that there are more than one Black Spartacuses in this world, but they were in places like the islands and shit like that. So it would have happened here eventually. Personally, I think it would have been better if we would have had a Black Spartacus. But, you know, history is what it is.
You don't have the wisdom that denotes the name you've chosen for your account. Let's name important things, buildings, roads, whatever, after good people. You can get the same effect of finding out who Robert E. Lee was by walking into a building named after Ulysses S. Grant. Research who he was. What did he do? Who did he famously interact with? Oh, Robert E. Lee. Not a good guy. So let's name things after good people and tell their stories and leave the only recognition that the losers of history are worthy of. They are a footnote in a book. That's it. They're part of the story, and then they're left in the trash bin.
Bullshit. 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 You equated us to the same people who deny the Holocaust. That's a goddamn lie. We don't deny the Holocaust. Did you know over in Germany, they don't have statues or monuments to the funny mustache man? You know, the one guy with the one nut who offed himself in a bunker? They don't. But they still teach their children about it in school so they don't repeat the same fucking mistakes. You don't need monuments. Of course, they have some of the concentration camps still up, so every student must visit it so they can learn about the atrocities that happened so they won't repeat it. We don't need buildings named after fucking Confederates who were actually traitors to this country. See, the funny mustache man wasn't a traitor to his country. He was trying to rule the world, yes, but he wasn't a traitor to his country. Robert E. Lee was a fucking traitor to his country. So your argument is null and void. In fact, your argument is absolute trash. We don't need monuments, boats, buildings named after Confederate generals who were fucking traitors. Do you know over in Germany they're not allowed to fly or own or possess a swastika, a SS patch, the flags, any of that paraphernalia? But here in the country, dickwads like you proudly fly the flag of fucking traitors, which wasn't even the actual Confederate flag. That was a battle flag of one state. And that flag did not come into prominence until the 50s and 60s when they were using it to terrorize people who look like me. They were trying to keep us subservient in our place so we wouldn't get civil rights, so we wouldn't vote. So before you start spouting off at the mouth, maybe you should learn your fucking history yourself. It is traitors like Robert E. Lee, who you so proudly speak of, who we should not ever have their names on any fucking thing. But you have the day you deserve. May the God of grace, peace, love, and mercy continue to shine his countenance upon you. And may the Lord watch between me and thee while we are apart from one another.
Well, that's just straight up bullshit, because the people who deny the Holocaust are the same conservatives who say that, Democrats were the ones that owned the slaves, which the second part is true. Democrats, Southern conservative Democrats, were the slave owners back during that time. But I'm just wondering, why are we celebrating traitors by memorializing them and naming bases of the country that won the war after them? It's always funny how so many conservatives and Southerners and all that scream and yell about how it was Democrats were the ones that were the slave owners, but then are pissed off that the names of those same Southern Democratic slave owners, as you claim, you get pissed over. You scream and cry over when they get pulled off of these bases. You'd figured you'd want them named after real Americans, don't you? Not traitors, not Southern Democratic slave owners. So why is it that conservatives are the ones that are getting upset and Democrats, liberals, are the ones that are like, yes, we need to change them? Because we do not celebrate traitors. I mean, you don't exactly see Germany naming any of their military bases Auschwitz, do you? Pretty sure I don't. But you know what they do? They have a museum where they put everything so that we can learn and not forget about it, which is what we were doing. We were taking Southern statues and other things that have been out in public and putting them in museums where they belong, rather than celebrating them and memorializing them like they were some kind of hero. We put it in museums where people could learn the reality and truth of it. I seriously just don't fucking understand the whole need for this. The South lost the war. They were the traitors. They were the ones that tried to break away from the Union. They were the ones that tried to break away from the Union. They were the quote-unquote bad guys, and yet you want them remembered at all times. Not just remembered as in it existed and it happened, let's not forget that, but memorialized. Basically celebrated. No. Only those who continue to want to be traitors, who believe in the South and what they were doing, want that. We want shit where it belongs, in a museum. Not out and being celebrated, being named after military bases, being named after traitors. Those that tried to leave what this country eventually became. Those who tried to break away and start their own country. You want bases named after them. So my question then would be, why do you want military bases named after traitors? I mean, at this point, we might as well just name one Fort Benedict fucking Arnold.
You walk into a building named after Robert Elely. You don't know much about him, just another name on a plaque, a statue in front of some courthouse or a school you drive past. But then you get curious, you asked, who was Robert Elely? So you go home, you open your phone, you type in Robert Elely, and just like that, a door opens. You start reading. He was a general, a Confederate general, fought against the Union in the Civil War, fought for the Confederacy, the South. And as you scroll deeper, you see the word slavery, then another sensation, and then another treason. Now you are reading about the Confederacy, you are learning about states' rights, about plantation, about the economy of the South. You start seeing articles about slave auction, photographs of black men in chains, stories of brutality and cruelty, stories you didn't learn in school, or if you did, they didn't hit like this. And all that started because you walked into a building named after Robert Elely. Now pause right there. That moment, that spark of curiosity is exactly why we need to keep these names, these statues, these buildings. Not because we support what the Confederacy stood for, not because we want to celebrate slavery, but because we need to remember. Look, there is a growing movement in this country, one that wants to erase everything uncomfortable from public view. They want to tear down statues, rename buildings, rewrite the past. They say it's about progress. They say it's about healing. They say it's about justice. But I have to ask, is it really, or is it about hiding? When you delete a chapter of history, you don't heal from it, you forget it. And when you forget history, you are no longer protected from repeating it. Now let's be clear, the Confederacy was a rebellion. They lost the Civil War. They fought against the United States. And yes, many of them fought to preserve slavery. That is not up for debate. But if we are going to be honest, really honest, we must understand that history is not black and white. It's not hero versus villain. It's complex. It's full of contradictions, half-truths, and moral flaws. Robert Eley was a slaveholder, but he was also a brilliant strategist. He was respected by both enemies and allies. He opposed sensational personally, yet still led the Confederate army because he couldn't bear to fight against his home state of Virginia. That is not easy to explain, but that is why we have to keep these names visible so that people can ask questions. Tearing down statues doesn't solve racism. Renaming buildings doesn't erase injustice. And pretending the Confederacy never existed doesn't change the fact that it did. In fact, it makes it more likely that people never learn about it at all. What happens when a generation grows up never seeing the name Robert Eley, never hearing about Jeffrey Devson, never knowing what the Confederacy was? What happens when people don't even know there was a civil war? Don't laugh, it's already happening. There are teenagers in this country who think the Civil War was over tax or tariffs or that slavery was just part of the economy. There are young adults who know more about celebrity gossip than they do about the bloodiest war in American history. And yet, we are moving the very landmarks that would make them ask the right questions. Now, let me ask you something uncomfortable. What is more dangerous, a statue of Confederate general that sparks research or a nation full of people who have never heard of him? The truth is, monumentals hasn't endorsements. They are markers. They will tell you something happened here. They tell you this person existed and people once thought he mattered. Whether you agree with the person or not, that is besides the point. In fact, that is the whole point. Let's flip the script for a moment. Germany doesn't have statues of Hitler, and people often bring that up as a counterpoint. But Germany also teaches the Holocaust intensely. They have museums, mandatory school visits to concentration camps, but full national repentance built into their curriculum. They don't erase past, they own it. We don't do that in America. We tear things down and act like the job's done, no reckoning, no deep education, just symbolic gestures and empty progressivism. There is something else we need to talk about. This idea that keeping a monument means you support what it stands for. That is childish thinking. You can study a murderer without admiring them. You can analyze a dictatorship without promoting tyranny. You can walk through a Holocaust museum without being a Nazi. So why can't someone look at the Confederate statue and say, let's talk about what this means? Instead, we hear, take it down, it's racist. Name the school, it's offensive. Burn it, erase it, forget it never happened. That is not progressive. That is denial. And here is something most people won't admit. The more you erase names like Robert Eley, the more you sanitize the past, the more you remove public reminders of slavery, the easier it is for people to forget how bad it actually was. It's because abstract, it's because a chapter in a book no one reads. It becomes easy to ignore. And then it happens again, not in the same form, but in spirit, in law, in silence. What if we kept those names but added context? Imagine a school named Robert Eley High School with a giant flag out front that says, named after General Robert Eley, leader of the Confederate Army. This name remains as a reminder of American divided past and the cost of fighting to preserve slavery. Let this school stand as a place where the history is studied, debated, and never repeated. Would that not be more powerful than just renaming it Maplewood Academy? Wouldn't that spark more questions than silence ever could? Now, some people say, well, those names cause pain. They traumatize people. I hear that and I don't dismiss it. But I ask this in return. What kind of strength are we building if the presence of a name is enough to scatter us? Pain is part of learning. Discomfort is the price of wisdom. And you don't grow by shielding yourself from everything ugly. If anything, facing the names, the monumentals, the reminders, it forces us to confront who we are and who we don't want to be. You want to stop racism? Start with education. Start with full, unfiltered truth, not a history book that schemes, not a whitewashed classroom lesson, not a social media echo chamber. Use the monuments as tools. Teach students that this statue existed for a reason, that this person fought for slavery, that people once thought it was okay, and that others died to stop them. Now, I want to say something to those who think we are defending racism here. We are not. We are defending memory. We are defending the power of questions. We are defending the right to remember things as they were, not how we wish they did be. Because real healing doesn't come from hiding the past. It comes from dragging it into the light, staring at it, talking about it, teaching it. Every time you pass a building named after a Confederate leader, you should feel something. Not pride, not shame, curiosity. Think of it like scars. A scar on your body doesn't mean you want to relieve the injury. It doesn't mean you are proud of it. It means you survived something. It means it happened. It's there so you never forget. That is what these buildings are. That is what these statues are, scars. The moment we remove them, we start pretending we never wounded. And that is the most dangerous lie of all. So next time someone says, why is this school still named after Robert E. Lee? Ask them, why do you know who Robert E. Lee is? The answer is simple. Because the name was still there, because someone didn't erase it, because someone didn't flinch, and because of that, you learned something. Let's keep learning, let's keep remembering, let's stop pretending the past is gone, just because we can't see it anymore. Because history doesn't disappear, it waits. And if we forget it, it waits to come back.
And if you watched up to this extent, don't forget to please leave me your own thought in the comment section of what you think of this video. And please do not forget that we do not support any form of bullying and harassment. We are just here for educational and informative purposes. So lovelies, why not just share your thought? Subscribe to this channel if you're yet to do that, and I will see you lovelies when I upload the next one.